feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Hey everyone, I'm Mark Scribner, your co-host with Mike Akil today. I'm in my Boston office. He's in his Sarasota office, and we're actually really excited today. The show is called The Shrimp Tank, loosely connected with the TV show The Shark Tank, although the big difference here is we don't have our guests beg for capital and investments and try to take 40% of their company. We're able to interview some of the most exciting entrepreneurs, business leaders, visionaries in and around the country. Now in something like 13 cities, we have over 1,200 shows in the can at the moment, nationally syndicated through iHeart, Google Stitch, Apple. Basically anywhere you can download your podcast is where you can find this show and all prior shows. So Micah, I'm excited. This is really cool. So we have a legit person that stood in front of the crew and Mr. Wonderful and all that, and pitched his business idea. His name is John Booz, and he is what I would refer to as a serial entrepreneur. So anybody who's ever started a company or wants to start a company or has an idea or a vision, we're going to definitely get deep into what John is able to bring out, and I'm excited about that. So with that said, John, it's great to have you here today.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Nice to meet you guys. I love where street smarts and book smarts collide. That's like right up my alley. A lot of street smarts, maybe not so much book smarts.
Absolutely. And John, tell our listeners, I mean, you started from humble beginnings, right? And now you have a multi-million-dollar business, but kind of tell us how Würkin Stiffs started.
Oh, yeah, that's the question I get a lot. Yeah, look at Mike. I tell people, you know, I graduated high school, didn't go to college. So when I say there's a lot of street smarts involved, that's what I meant by that. You know, literally it was an idea that I had in the mirror. My wife gave me a shirt to wear, and the collar looked like I was from John Travolta from Saturday Night Fever. It was so large, and like, it was like a 3-inch collar at that time. So that was back in 2005, 2006. And it really started as had the moment, the lightning strike right there in the mirror on how to make a magnetic collar stay, nothing like it around. And it was such a simple idea. I knew right away that I had to get some patent protection around it if I was going to have legs. But it really, you know, to answer your question, it started as a supplemental income. My wife was, you know, we were pregnant with our first, and she was going to stop working. So it really started in a manner of, well, how can we supplement some income? This would be great. But it took about a year from idea to development to the first product that we could sell. It took a year's time to get that done. And by that point, we had a one-page website with a buy now button, and trying to get anybody to pay some sort of attention to us. And it was a joint effort with my wife, myself, and my twin. I have a twin brother, and we were contacting magazines, and it was a company called uncrate.com who put us on their men's blog. You know, it's kind of like a gadget website, editorial type, and unbeknownst to us, they featured us on Uncrate, and I had over 200 orders in one day. And that's what started Würkin Stiffs legitimately.
Mm. So do you think it kind of started as a hobby first, or did you you just put it out there, think it was a good idea, not knowing what kind of traction it would ultimately have?
Well, I think everything I do that I noticed even with the company, with the people that surround me, any idea that I have, I always go to the nth degree. So I never go in thinking small. So I think, you know, even at the time, it was like I knew it could be something, but it was really humble beginnings. It was like, you know, dream for the most, but really stay realistic on this thing. I had a day job at the time. I was general managing 2 collision centers, you know, auto body and paint centers, and so I kept my day job as we were, you know, moving forward with this product. And but there did come a point in time where I had to quit my day job, and I knew I had to jump in with both feet just to make it work. We kind of saw, you know, we saw traction early on, and I couldn't do both, right? I mean, I'd work all day, come home around 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, and then I'd work till like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then wake up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning to go to my day job. And this kind of went on and on and on. And then finally, though, you could feel that, you know, this thing needed more attention.
Right.
And that's kind of where the story began, where, you know, I then took my son, who was 10 months old at the time, and strapped him into the back seat of the car and told my wife to go get dressed. And we literally started selling the product out of the back of our car. We went to our very first men's store here in Sarasota, Florida, St. Armand Circle. And that's where it really started taking root for a B2B business. We didn't have any knowledge in retail, wholesale, didn't know how to get any of that done. All we did know is we had to sell product. That was it. We had to sell product. And we knew we had a good product, you know.
Did you find it was helpful, John, to be able to kind of test your market here locally before? I mean, when did really the online part really start to take off versus just here locally? And how did you benefit from having working with local business owners here? How did that help you?
So it was a little backwards for us, Micah, than it would be today, right? So online was very secondary for us. You know, you're talking back 2006. There was no Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, none of those social media platforms. So for us, the only avenue was in store, right? We were selling online. It was literally a PayPal buy now button. It was painful to process a .com order at the time. When I had 200 orders, my mind was like, oh, how am I going to get all these orders out? It's not like it is today. I mean, now we have we do our own fulfillment. It's all streamlined. I mean, it's much different. But back then, for us to grow, the only way that we felt that we could grow is to get in store. And that was going to be the key. So it did help to go local, to be honest with you. It was right away, Joffrey Michael, who's the owner of the Met, said, oh, have you spoke to Grinders? And I'm like, what's a grinder? He's like, that's a men's specialty store in Tampa. So right away, Amy and I, my wife and I, we jump in the car, Aiden's in the backseat, and we drive up to Tampa, about an hour drive. And as we're going over the Howard Franklin Bridge, and then there's a billboard that says Kirby's Menswear on Del Mabry. I'm like, Amy, write that down. So we went and saw Chris at Grinders, and Amy would go in, and she came out and she's like, he just bought 50 units and he wants to meet you. And she goes in and gives him 50 units. He comes out and he's like, well, how am I supposed to pay you for this? We're like, we don't know. We're just trying to figure it out. And I think, asking for help along the way was key for us. Like, you really found that people want to help others, especially when it comes from a genuine place, a guy that's not from the industry, a guy that's not from retail. I say guy, my wife obviously with me. We asked questions, and they really helped us kind of fine tune, because we didn't even understand, like, what are we supposed to be charging wholesale versus retail? And what are the margins you're expecting? And what should we be making? And how many quantity units? And all that stuff really makes a difference, and led up to our meeting with Nordstrom, which came years later. But you can see that the journey to get there, I wanted it now. I want all the majors now, right? But I really realized when we did, and how we, through the journey, I realized I had to stay focused on why were these men's specialty stores? Why was it working? It was that when we aligned with Nordstrom and partnered with those guys, because our culture, the way the business, family-owned business, mega company, Nordstrom, but they still have a respect for small businesses. Mm-hmm. So it's that was another key to the puzzle for us, was like, we got with the right major, 100%. From there, it took about another year, but from there, that's when all the others started calling, Neiman Marcus, Bloomingdale's, Saks Fifth Avenue, all that stuff. They started calling us because they go on the floors of their competition to find out what's hot, and we were like the hot item on the men's floor. So that it was interesting to kind of see how like all that played out. And those are the things like I tell people, that come to me for different advice. It's really taking a breath and understanding what's working and what's not, and then and how do we wash, rinse, and repeat what's working to get to the next level.
Mm-hmm. You know, what I hear though over and over is just have a curious mind, and you're listening to the end consumer and trying to figure out how to solve these problems, which I think is really critical for anybody that's running a client facing or selling a product and whatnot. You're just curious of like how to solve that. And obviously now with some of the difficulty in the retail space, like you had that exercise to pivot, and you know, probably you're doing more in retail. But what I also wanted to know, I heard something that I want to know your opinion on is, in the beginning stages, you know, you're starting off, but I heard you say that when you do things that you jump in 2 feet, you go all in. And is that a requirement for, in your opinion, an entrepreneur who has a vision, a concept to just go all in? Or do they test a product and then wait for validation? I'm just curious about your thinking about that.
Yeah, so I think you have to take some time to validate the market. I mean, a little portion of the story that maybe I didn't, that I missed here is that, there was a time at the beginning where, I was giving the product to my twin. He had clientele that would wear my stuff, doctors, lawyers, a professional someone, right? That's going to wear a collared shirt, right? We have to, I'm in a niche thing. So I was giving him the product to hand off. And as soon as they were telling him, where can I buy these things? It was kind of like a series of events. It was like, where can I buy them? And, oh, my brother's working on it, and then it became like, oh, now he's got this product and, now you're trying to sell it. And so the 200 orders in one day was a real eye opener that like we had something. We were already hearing locally, handing it to friends and family for free, that they like the product, and now they want to know where to buy it. Well, that's a good sign. Then the secondary, now we do have a product that's viable to sell. And the other thing too was we realized early on we were selling the product to, it was the cost was too low for retail because I didn't have margin built in for the wholesaler. And that's where the stores really helped me, where I went to the Met and Grinders and Kirby's, and they said, hey, yeah, we can actually push the retail higher so that we can get a proper cut, and then make sure that we have a proper so everybody's making money and there's margins involved. But there does come a time, Mark, where you have to jump in. I mean, if you play on the sidelines and dip your toe in the water, I mean, like that's where you're gonna, you could just stay on the sidelines. I mean, like, so at some point you have to play ball, and to do so. This is a entrepreneurial spirit and all that. I mean, I was a guy working for people all in anyways. Like, I was probably everyone's best employee because I treated their business like my own. Now it's time to do it for myself, right? So it's really, 24/7. Even now, right? Your brain's constantly going like, what's the next thing? COVID-19, how do we now circumvent that? And how do we keep going further? And we've been able to do those things successfully. I mean, that's why I'm here talking to you guys saying it's not all doom and gloom out there. I mean, you hear these things in retail, but there is an adjustment that's happening, and we're seeing that. And I think it's pushing people to think creatively. And I think I've been successful in doing that with this company all the way through. Is like, I'm a very out of the box thinker, not only with product, but the way I partner with people. I've always done that. I think that's one thing that I've learned about myself through others is that they tell me, like, boy, you really go that extra mile to creatively get something done. They'll say, no, I can't. And I'm like, well, what can we do to make this a yes? Because when you really feel 100% like you're, like, hey, look, I know I'm right. I just need you to help me prove that I'm right. Then you can start getting creative on how can we partner together. So to kind of like, I know I went full circle, but to come back at you, Mark. Yeah, I mean, at some point you have to jump in, but do your due diligence. If you don't do your due diligence, you might get stopped before you get started.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, what was probably one of the biggest challenges with having a product that, you know, is something that other people want? How do you protect yourself to make sure someone, you know, one of the companies that you're pitching to doesn't take your idea?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Mike. I think, you know, one of the things obviously we did right away was, you know, went for a utility patent. And at the time, when you're hearing these numbers to afford a utility patent, it's, you know, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars. Now, it doesn't happen all at once. You can bite-size that thing down. Your attorneys will work with you. But that was like the best decision I made. It was, I'll never forget, it was a group of attorneys, and they said, well, we all had this discussion, and, you know, these are patent attorneys, and we think it, you know, you have a 50-50 shot. I was like, well, you sound like Al Roker on the weather, like 50-50, it's going to rain. I'm like, hold on, but can we agree that I have nothing? Because their final observation was, well, why don't you just be first to market? And I said, well, hold on. Can we agree that if I don't have patent protection, I'm going to get knocked off? Well, that's true, and you're going to have to, you know, defend your patent. So I think the biggest thing, like I said, like I was a late adopter to .com. Okay, I mean, I had it at the beginning, but I really didn't adopt it in the way you're seeing today, where everyone's direct to consumer. That wasn't my path. It was B2B. But we were having this constant problem with people knocking us off, and I had to defend the patent. I mean, and at that point, you know, the patent was published, so I could defend it. But that's another layer that I think a lot of I didn't take serious. The attorneys told me, but it didn't. The weight of that really didn't resonate with me until I faced it in a big way. And I think that's, you know, for us, it was with Amazon. And Amazon, you know, we were having issues with patent infringers on Amazon. And I was able to get a meeting with Amazon that went further and further up the ladder. But ultimately, we were able to partner with Amazon in a way today where our intellectual property is protected, and they do a great job. And it's a tandem effort, and we do a great job together. And it's really grown our .com or direct to consumer business, both on Amazon and on our .com as well. And that was another pivotal move that happened around 2015, 2016 for us.
Yeah, we hear a lot of our companies, like for example, Kickstarter, you know, people do like capital raises, and I don't want to forget about your capital ask and your experience on the shrimp tank, but so let's get into that in just a minute. But a lot of people like have their products by the time their capital raise on Kickstarter is completed. Like the Chinese already have the thing in production. It doesn't seem like entrepreneurs or people like yourselves are protected. I mean, the cost to defend a patent must be crazy expensive.
Yeah.
But that environment has changed, I think, in the past few years, where, you know, you're taking the risk, you're putting the product, the capital, the marketing. But I mean, when you do something like this, are you factoring in that, you know, some portion of your market share or product is going to be stolen?
I think you should, Mark. I think you should take that into consideration, because you have to defend. Did I? No. I mean, to be very honest with you, it wasn't like I was thinking like, oh, this was going to happen to me. You know, I obsess over like high quality, right? So like, if you look at our collar stay amongst any other collar stay, ours are far superior, right? So all this takes time and money. At the beginning, it was manufacturing here in the United States. I manufactured in the United States for about 4 or 5 years. I started seeing issues when I went to China to manufacture, to be honest with you, right? So that was kind of the risk that I knew I was taking, but to get it to the quality and some of the secondary and third operations I needed for the product that I wanted, I had to at some point get overseas, and I did. It does open up Pandora's box on you. Right. I think if I stayed manufacturing here in the States, it would be easier because of, you know, for the most part, you know, people respect the United States law in the United States. I think now we have a different conundrum at us where, you know, you having factories overseas are able to bring products straight from the factories overseas into like an Amazon. That's a huge issue that it's, you know, that's even allowed. But yeah, you have to think about the costs that are involved. I don't think you ever really know the true cost until you get involved. And not only money, it takes an emotional toll on you. That's another one that I really realized over. So it's important to have a team around you, even if you're small. You need to have a good, have some friends that are really positive thinkers, those family members that can support you when you're going through things like this, because that's kind of what helps you get through it, especially when the attorney's bills start coming at you. You really need somebody with you.
No doubt, no doubt. So one of the things a lot of businesses don't realize is typically they'll be undercapitalized. Now, you had an experience from, maybe it was a marketing perspective, but you were on this famous TV show called the Shark Tank, and you got to the point where I think it was Mark Cuban and trying to pull in Damon into the thing, and then they're in and out, and that whole experience where you pushed it.
Yeah, it was Damon. It was Damon Johns and I was with Barbara. Barbara was out, and then she came back in, and then I tried to grab because I knew Damon was the guy I needed in on this deal, so I was able to finagle a way for Damon to jump in. But they really, they raked me over the coals on my valuation to get it done. That whole Shark Tank experience was season 2, so that was 10 years ago, and very different than I think it is today. The producers actually one of the producers saw the product at Nordstrom. I was already selling to Nordstrom. I was just got into Neiman Marcus. I think I was in Saks Fifth Avenue, just getting into Bloomingdale's, and they saw the product at Nordstrom. And so I got a call from the casting director, and they said, "Would you like to be on Shark Tank?" And I said, "Let me call you back. I got to think about it." Really, I'm off the phone going, "Yeah." I saw season 1. Right?
Oh, so you play hard to get, huh?
Yeah, I did a little bit. So, but it didn't guarantee me on television. So there's a process involved with the show, but it gives you an opportunity and a shot to do so. But television's television, and after television, there's a lot of negotiations, and actually the negotiations fell into in my favor. And I ultimately backed out. I got a better valuation on the company, a better deal all the way around, talking to Barbara and Damon, and probably kicking myself for it today. But I ultimately didn't take the deal. I was looking for more than just money. So there's a lot of little, when you talk to people, there's a lot of little caveats that maybe contractually they can't do, and so there's different things like that. But I think at the time, I made the right decision, right? Who knows what the future would bring, which we're doing very well. I mean, everybody, I'm always, people around me are like, look what you have done with the collar stay. We've made a product that's, for stores, collar stays for them selling on a store level is not a big selling item. And time again, the stores that we're in, they're like, you make us money out of thin air. So we take a product that really does, maybe, tens of thousands of dollars a year, and we'll do for a store, we'll do millions. Yeah. And they don't realize that until we're in the store. So I think, we have done very well, and I've done very well. But I keep looking for the next thing. Where's this going next?
I wanted to ask about that because, you have one concept, and is that always the thinking? Like, I mean, you have market share, you're successful in that space, but didn't you add something else after that, or try to keep it viable? Is that something as a requirement?
So when we started the company, and I'll try to answer this in a nutshell, Mark, and sometimes I'm long-winded, is that everyone told us at the trade shows, my wife and I, you're not going to make it off of one product. So over the years, I had over 500 SKUs. I had cufflinks and tie bars and at one point ties and wallets and handbag, right? So we created a men's accessories brand. The product that was making me the most money and was like the Energizer Bunny was the core product, which was Würkin Stiffs. At the beginning, the collar stays were called Würkin Stiffs. We kept the name for the brand. So it's Power Stays by Würkin Stiffs, which is our magnetic collar stays. But that one product, we stopped really babying. We stopped really even feeding it. We're like, oh, it's feeding itself. But what we were doing was we were undervaluing that product and what it could do. So when I was going through all these, defending of the patents and different things, I'm like, what are we doing here? Why there's a lot of money that we're spending on marketing all these other items that I wasn't protected. I was like, so I was one of the first to do an RFID blocking wallet. It was me and like one or two other companies. And we're at the trade show explaining what RFID is and all this stuff. Now, look across, there's probably not a wallet that isn't RFID blocking.
Or luggage.
So,
Luggage, everything's that
correct,
way.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
right.
The marketing dollars we were putting towards all that stuff, I don't have investors in the company to make that really viable. But what I do have is a product over here that is, patent protected. It's been defended successfully. It's done all these great things.
Cash flow positive. Right.
And let me tell you here, I'll tell you a little secret, and everyone out there listening, focus on what you're best at. From all this, we are doing now more with under 20 SKUs than I was doing with over 500, because we really focused down the company on what we're good at. And I think that has to do with not only that it's protected with intellectual property for being magnetic, but we are truly the best collar stay out there by far. The quality, what we do, how we do it, no one else does it the way we do it because the costs involved. So I think that's for me has been the takeaway for the past, I'll say 3 years. And I think I was told internally as well as externally, you're crazy. You're going to drop all these SKUs. You're going to drop 95% of your SKUs, and you're going to see 95% drop in revenue. And I saw the exact opposite. And this year, to be our greatest year, going into 2020 was it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So I think in the day and age that we live in, where you do have all these social media platforms, you have these marketplaces such as Amazon, to be niche is to be successful, because people they're out there looking for the best. They can go to one marketplace and search all these items. You don't need to have all these items to satisfy someone at checkout. What you need is you need to have the best product out there. So that's what we try to do.
Mm-hmm.
Good feedback. Yeah, that's good. And it's funny. We were interviewing someone recently, another business, and that's it. They focus their attention on one thing, and that's really how the business mushroomed. So that's good for anybody out there listening to stay focused, find that one thing that is really special, and run with it. So good. That's good. Thanks, John.
Yeah, I heard that too. I mean, the curse of diversification sometimes can be the case. I mean, you stick to your core knitting, you get the processes down, and you execute. Some of the entrepreneurs, business owners that we work with, when they get into companies, they have like a 1, 3, 5 year vision. Most small business owners, for the most part, are already figuring out like the day they can sell. Do you factor any of that into the way that you run your company? Like, are you looking somewhere down the line to have a liquidity event or something that you could partner with, or I mean, getting overtures from people to buy your company? I mean, how do you handle that kind of stuff?
I think, there's been times across my way, I've had these discussions, with those that have come to me to strategic partnerships and different things. And for one reason or another, it wasn't either right timing on one side of the table, or the offer wasn't sweet enough, or whatnot. I think maybe to a downfall, sometimes I don't really think super far out strategically in that manner. But what I can tell you is that we're definitively seeing like a different shift with the mindset of those. I think a lot of them are shirt brands out there, like the newer shirt brands that are direct to consumer. I think this kind of mantra of direct to consumer, where brands really started in that manner, really understand how to collaborate and partner beyond their brand. I think a lot of these heritage brands, what they do is they get really caught up in their thinking of these heritage brands. Our product is a huge add-on to shirt sales. So what we've seen recently, and really the fuel on the fire since COVID, is being able to partner with other shirt brands that see the value in Würkin Stiffs. And then they really reap the benefits of seeing how well we perform. We increase the units per transaction. We increase the average order value. And a lot of people will say, well, maybe I shouldn't have a collar stay that actually corrects the collar of my shirt. And we're really an adjustment, right? And a lot of people know of Würkin Stiffs, obviously not not everyone, but I've had actual large shirt brand owners, and you know who you are, and you wear Würkin Stiffs, and we want to try to collaborate with these guys. So those are the partnerships I look for for the future, really showing them, the added value we can bring. As far as any kind of liquidity event, I mean, if that comes in the future, I'm all for it. I do think that there's bigger and better for Würkin Stiffs as a brand and what we can do as a company. So, we're constantly, thinking in that manner. But I don't look towards a liquidity event to navigate where I'm going.
It's not the motivator. It's not, you don't wake up every day thinking about that.
No, not at all. I mean, if it happens, I mean, it would be great. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, right? If it's the right liquidity event, or if it's the right partnership in that manner on some sort of an exit, but I don't wake up thinking about it. I wake up thinking about what can we do better and what can we do different that no one's out there seeing. And I think those are the things that I think. And hey, that's how I grew up to 500 SKUs at one point, because I was doing all that stuff. And then when like I said, when those things are taken by somebody else, you try not to pursue. But I think there's a lot of other things within the Würkin Stiffs basket that we're coming up with and that we want to do. And a lot of it, again, like I said earlier, a lot of it is creative thinking with business and partnering with the right brands and showing the value you can bring to them without looking like we're a competitor or we're trying to fix something that's wrong. Really, we're a complement. We're not a competitor, we're a complement. And you'll see that. And there's a few right now that we're proving as case studies that are proving that fact. And, kudos to them for helping us,
Yeah, I absolutely love the name. I'd like to just remind all our listeners, you can download this show through iHeart, nationally syndicated via them, Google Stitch, Apple Podcast, anywhere basically. Again, you can find your podcast. You can find us also at theshrimptank.com/Boston. We are in Boston and Sarasota, obviously with Micah being there. We want to thank you for your time. It's really valuable information. My main takeaway is just you went in both feet and passionate about your business. You're a serial entrepreneur, a successful one. And there's a lot of wisdom that you're able to share with our listeners about, going out there and getting focused. And that's invaluable information, in my opinion. John, for our listeners and folks that want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
The absolute best way to get a hold of me, and I welcome anyone that has questions, is on LinkedIn. Just look me up, Jonathan Boos, B as in boy, O-O-S. And the company's Würkin Stiffs, W-U-R-K-I-N Stiffs. And just reach out to me. I'm always happy to help others. I've been helped throughout my journey, and I'm glad to do it and pass it forward.
Yeah, John, great having you on the show. And my takeaway was, if you find that one thing that you're good at, be number one at that thing, and it will just mushroom and grow from there. So it's really good tips. Glad having you on the show.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the time.
Thanks so much.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.